especially now during a playoff run and everything. But when you're in Winnipeg, the Jets they're a huge thing. I mean, for me personally, I was a little kid. I was about 11 years old when the Jets the first time around left and went to Phoenix of all places. I mean, that was a tough thing to live through in our town. Like that was a really tough thing to live through. So that's a big part of like my sports fandom. After that, I kind of went away from hockey and I got really, really into baseball. Baseball was always kind of my big thing. The Jays were great when I was 6-7 years old, and so everyone knows Joe Carter, Alomar, Olerud. Like everyone really got into it then, and you're playing baseball in the summers. But I actually grew up on a very healthy dose of kind of Minnesota Twins from the 60s and 70s lore, because to drive from Winnipeg to Minnie 6-7 hours, and my Zeyde and my uncles, like in the 60s, there were no Blue Jays. Like the Jays were not a team. And the Twins had amazing teams. I mean, they went to World Series against the Dodgers. They went to the ALCS against the Baltimore Orioles. And my uncles would tell these incredible stories about seeing Harmon Killebrew and Tony Oliva and Rod Carew and like incredible stories. And Mike Cuellar hit this grand slam in the 1969 ALCS that sunk the Twins, and they hated Mike Cuellar, like all these great stories. And so I remember going down to see games with my Zeyde in Minneapolis. And so there was just like a magic with the baseball. And then kind of in tribute to my Zeyde, when he was sort of sick, actually, I did a trip after journalism school. I went to visit every major league ballpark in one summer and see a game.
Wow.
And that was it was amazing. I didn't even have a car. Like I kind of had to find bus trips and train trips and flights here and there. And I found places to stay so I could keep the cost of it down. I mean, it was epic. It was really wonderful. And that so baseball.
That's amazing. I mean, I was going to say that's a hard enough trip to do if you're driving from everywhere. But if you're cobbling it together, I mean, did you do it all in one shot, or was it see a few stadiums and then go back home, or see a few more?
I was on the road for 77 days.
Wow.
Yeah. I was moving every like day for sure, every couple of days for sure. Yeah.
That's amazing. What was your favorite ballpark, or what were some of your favorite ballparks?
I always tell people the ballpark in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I went a couple years ago. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
so you guys agree?
I was once at Pittsburgh's Jewish Heritage Night. Matter of fact,
that's super cool. I didn't know that they had one. I love the Pittsburgh Stadium.
Yeah, totally by coincidence. And they had like a couple of synagogue choirs sing the national anthem, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they had Pirates hats that just had a Magen David on the side. It was a proud day for our people in Pittsburgh. It's a beautiful ballpark. Did you notice anything particularly Jewish throughout your travels of any other ballpark other than, Los Angeles, New York, and so have lots of Jewish people in them?
No. There's nothing like inherently Jewish about baseball or the stadiums or anything like that. But the nature of my particular journey was that it had like a spiritual kind of pilgrimage. This was when I was 23. This was long before I had any inkling of ever being any kind of rabbi.
Sure.
Like I'm already kind of an outside the box, more liberal kind of DIY kind of rabbi in a lot of situations like these days. But back then I had no inkling of that whatsoever. And yet because I needed to kind of find places to stay, I was using every connection I had. I had this side job at the synagogue, and one of the rabbis reached out to like a network, and I stayed with a whole bunch of random, never met before rabbis in cities on my journey.
Wow.
There you go.
that is pretty amazing. And I mean, I think that's you were doing it for, recreation or connecting with baseball and all that. But, I think there's just some similarity to that from a lot of, sort of immigration stories that we've heard from Jews over the years of like, I knocked on the door and said, are there Jews in town, and found someone to put me up. Like that's I think there are a lot of stories of immigrants traveling from Eastern Europe or Russia in the previous century where it's just like that's what you did. You could count on a Jew to put you up, and I don't know. I think there's some. It's amazing that tradition lives on in one way or another. I think that's something you can usually count on.
I once actually, it's amazing that you said that, because I once did a little presentation where I used the trip as kind of an example and talked it as a story of community, like you just said. In that particular case, it was because I had used so many Winnipeg connections that had spread all over North America. So it was great for a Winnipeg audience to see like, oh, so-and-so's great nephew in Cleveland put you up. That's incredible. How are they doing? But it's like exactly like you said, like this network that have made it possible for me to kind of fulfill this lifelong dream. Everybody just kind of had a coach. Like it was incredible.
And how do all of the rabbis communicate with each other? I assume some sort of like relay shofar network that goes from hill to hill across the Great Plains of America.
If I tell you too much, I could get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But what I will divulge is that it's a special kind of blend between Jedi powers and basic telepathy. Like it's it's a feeling, it's a sense. I've probably already said too much. I'm going to be in a lot.
We have uncovered on this podcast that there is a text group chat amongst all of the Jewish Major League Baseball players.
Is there really?
There is.
Yeah. Or at least most of them, yeah.
And
what are they talking about?
I think mostly about being Jewish.
Yeah,
just like, Happy New Year. We'd love to see you on Team Israel, so on and so forth.
That's awesome.
And maybe, so you've got the group text of the Jewish major leaguers and then the shadow group text of the rabbis that talks about the group text of the major leaguers.